already broke my word about doing a sequel month, so I'm gonna do 2 sequels this month and give you a little surprise after that. For now, I'm finally going to do the movie I kept bringing up, George of the Jungle 2.
George of the Jungle, strong as he can be. Watch out for that tree. George.
The first movie was a fun little adaptation due to its sense of humor and good acting. I mean, you can only do so much as a Tarzan parody, but I did enjoy myself regardless. Can the same be said for the sequel? No. This time we have David Grossman directing, and he's most known for working on Lost and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The screenplay was from Jordan Moffat, who prior to this movie wrote the screenplay for... Like Mike? Oh, and we're also dealing with a smaller budget and a direct-to-video release. What could possibly go wrong? Well, grab a vine and get ready to swing, because we're diving into George of the Jungle 2. So after the humorous bit of George crashing into the Disney logo of ages past, we open with another animated intro, with the song we all know and love. Of course, as nice as this looks, it would seem bland if they didn't foreshadow the movie's main conflict. What will it be this time?
Now George was a king and a daddy too. It's just too much for poor George to do.
Family issues. That's seriously what we're going with? Again, George is essentially a Tarzan parody. And there are many Tarzan stories that you can make spoofs of. I just feel like if they're gonna go this route, they might end up taking it too seriously, or make family drama jokes that won't land well. There's also something about the intro spoiling the whole movie, but... Anyway, the familiar voice of Keith Scott welcomes us into the movie proper, as we see the return of our favorite hero... Wait. You're not George! Who are you?
Me new George. Studio too cheap to pay Brendan Fraser.
Well, that sucks. How'd you get the part?
New George just lucky, I guess.
In any case, George, now played by Christopher Shorman, has a son named George Jr., played by Angus Jones. And they are doing father-son things like playing fetch with Shep, who somehow looks even worse than before. This is good evidence that the budget isn't what it used to be. As for humor, well, it falls flat more often than not.
That's grooming him to be heir, not grooming his hair.
Oh, yeah.
There are some enjoyable parts, like George attending a coconut-style soccer game.
Hit me!
But then we follow up George being late for lunch, because he's an idiot who doesn't know how to schedule things. Now he's in hot water with his wife, Ursula, now played by Julie Benz. So he promises to spend more time with her tonight, but will he remember? Also,
Can George give Junior vine swinging lesson before we eat?
Vine swinging's a little dangerous.
Must be from your side of family.
Vine surfing is much cooler.
get it? Because that's what Disney's Tarzan did! And really, the meta-humor in this movie is kinda underwhelming.
Yes, fans, for the first time in history, George of the Jungle didn't hit the tree he was aiming at. But that didn't stop him from hitting the second tree. And in case you were worried, the new George takes a tree as well as Brendan Fraser.
On the subject of returning actors, Abe is once again played by John Cleese. It's kinda hard to appreciate his talent now because of his personal baggage, but he does give a good performance here.
Cut the cards. Welcome to Las Vegas, baby. And they say humans are more evolved.
And just to spoil this now, yes, Thomas Hayden Church returns as Lyle Vandegroot. We'll get to him shortly, but for now, here's a perfectly fine example of some hit-and-miss humor. Bad moment. Python sink. Good moment. After George asks about seeing Ursula later tonight, we get this bit about animal communication.
The animals are all going to talk, so you humans don't miss a thing.
Where's your king now?
And then bad moment. The reason they were fighting.
George, this is all their fault. The birds keep dropping their zug-zug on us.
Incoming. It's disgusting. I gotta wear a hat.
We make treaty and get everyone go zug-zug in separate areas.
Now you can stay to play coconut ball.
George can't stay.
And why not, George?
George have romantic evening planned with Ursula.
George has been married for 5 years, and these issues are just now coming up? Also, this lion, played by the late Michael Clark Duncan, is acting like a jerk. Is he the big bad of this movie? Well, no. You could consider him to be a secondary villain, but honestly he doesn't do much in the story. He just wants to be king of the jungle, and when this is brought up, George admits that Ursula is more important to him than being king. He actually thought that his wife hated living here, despite what she has to say.
Don't be silly. Everything's fine.
George hopes so. Guess George loves Ursula more than there are stars in the sky.
The sentimental stuff is fine, but when paired with what's to come, it becomes less Tarzan parody and more Jungle 2 Jungle, perhaps? I don't know. But anyway, we get the return of Ursula's mother, Beatrice, now played by Christina Pickles. She's making her way through the jungle with the 3 guides from the first movie, and she's planning to marry her daughter to Lyle despite everything that happened last time. This will be done by having Lyle buy out the casino that Ape frequents at and get the deed to Ape Mountain somehow. Also, the Planet of the Apes joke from last movie has manifested here. I wonder if they'll sell Conga-Cola there. But how will the guides respond to her subtle racism?
I'm not having him grow up here an illiterate savage.
Acha mawuse, pumamakoni. Miye peke nitam sukuma.
Sorry, we can't kill Beatrice. If she dies, we have no story.
I'm sure we can think of something else. Now, okay, that's adorable. In any case, Beatrice is trying to convince her daughter to come home with her. All the while, George is continually torn between his job and his wife. It would help if you had an advisor, like Ape, so find a replacement and you're all set. Of course, Beatrice takes advantage of his torment by suggesting him to come home to civilization. He does consider the idea, but he tries to get some second opinions. First up is Tukey. That did nothing. Next up is Ape. It'll take a while to reach him, and he's really annoyed at this one guy for singing the same song.
You got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fall.
Ursula tells her mother off for messing with George. It's nice that she's standing up for her husband, but his slip-ups leave something to be desired. But despite his faults, you know who he's better than?
You've got your obsession with her under control.
Of course, I have it under control. And when I do, bulldozers will roll. Roll!
You need professional help. And possibly a prison sentence, you creeper. To get his scheme going, Lyle joins Ape in a game of poker and cheats non-stop. Before the bad guy wins, he gets around to asking for the deed to Ape Mountain. But guess what? George has it with him all along. But that doesn't mean Ape will get away scot-free.
Don't you worry your pretty little hairy head about it. You can work off the debt performing in my nightclub for the next 17 years.
Okay? Anyway, Lyle relays to Beatrice that George has the deed.
George hides in butt plug.
Keeps it in his underwear.
At the same time, Tukey comes back home and tells George that Ape is in trouble, which means he needs to go to Las Vegas to help him out.
Thrilled that George was leaving, Beatrice beamed like a Cheshire cat.
Don't ever do that again. That's just wrong. But instead of telling his subjects about the situation, George just leaves them in the dark. The lion, who we now know is just called Mean Lion, has this to say.
But don't worry, I'll take care of you.
Because yeah, he pretty much takes over the jungle. I guess animals don't need deeds to own this mountain, I guess.
I promise to make every Tuesday Meatless Tuesday!
Back on topic, George takes his family to Vegas. He gets new clothes, and then sees Ape in an emotional reunion. Ape tells George that he needs to find the balance between his job as king and his home life. Because, duh. We later see Lyle break into George's residence to steal the deed. Gotta check all his underwear, though. Speaking of funny, though, George takes his family to Circus. And guess who they find there?
George, this is Rocky. He's very honored to meet you.
Why do they call him Rocky?
Because when he gets nervous, he does that.
George, honored to meet Rocky, too.
Oh, I wish I was watching Rocky 2 right about now. After going through all of the underwear, Lyle finally finds the deed. He uses this to tell the guys to tell all the jungle animals to clear out in 3 days or else. So what does Mean Lion do?
And so, as is my birthright, I now declare myself King of the Jungle.
Can't be king without the royal amulet.
Then I'll just have to get it back, won't I?
Oh yeah, the necklace thing. How you gonna get it? Fly to Las Vegas? And why do none of the other animals try and stop him? This jungle is mostly full of gorillas. What's one bad lion against them? Moving on, George's family attend a show by Armando the Hypnotist, played by John Kassir, aka Enzo from the Bayonetta series. He made this one woman eat ice cream, and when she snaps back...
Ice cream? But I'm lactose intolerant!
Oops. Sorry.
Oh, not funny. Also, Ape performs a cover of Hey Hey We're the Monkeys, which isn't too bad, though I think the people are just here for the talking gorilla.
Happen to run into the Lords of Oompa practicing your favorite song. I want to know what love is.
1, 2, 3, 4!
Remember when the first movie was funny? It felt like humor that came straight out of the cartoon, but that's missing here. Case in point, when Beatrice suggests getting more help for her plans, this is who we get.
Here's your towels, angels.
Thanks, Charlie.
Is this funny? Will kids know what that is? Who cares? So these are Ursula's old friends, and they're just here to say nice things about Lyle. Every time I feel like some villain will try something smarter, they just turn out to be really dumb. We then get a montage after Ursula thinks about her life since her marriage, and well...
Soon your whole identity is gonna get swallowed up by George, and the Ursula we know and love is gonna disappear.
What's wrong with more muscular women? Personality-wise, she's still the same, so what's the problem? As George makes his way over, he overhears Beatrice harping on about her daughter deserving a better husband. While there's something to be said about troubling relationships, it's not like Beatrice is a source for comfort to Ursula either, so she shouldn't have a say in who her daughter should be with. And really, George is trying to do better. Even if he's still an idiot for not telling anyone his reasons for coming here, and Beatrice only wants Lyle to hook up with Ursula for her own peace of mind, not for her daughter's sake. As if we need to drive this point home, Ursula remembers how George loved her for who she was. You know what that means?
I want my George.
The idea of an abusive family preying on its own is not a bad idea for a story, but again, it's hard to pull that off in a George of the Jungle movie. Now, Beatrice is enlisting the help of Armando, who's going to hypnotize Ursula into forgetting George. Not sure why Ursula would be okay with being hypnotized, knowing what her mother was trying to do, but she goes along with it anyway. Ursula's friends were also hypnotized because... It's for a joke later.
It took 2 movies and a crooked hypnotist. But the lecherous Lyle Vandergroot had finally gotten his wish. Ursula was, in a manner of speaking, his wife.
So naturally, Beatrice calls George to inform him about Ursula getting back with Lyle. Our hero obviously takes it well. He then takes time to see them asleep before walking away for good. He repeats what he did in the first movie by giving her his tooth necklace. I guess the writers are recycling the best bits from the first movie. Look at this. They even referenced the part where George played with the horses. Here they're having Lyle do it, and he's obviously failing hard. Moving along, Tukey manages to get out of his cage by having Shep help. Do something funny! Anything! Just not this! Oh, and off-screen, George talked to Abe about what happened, but I guess he's so unhappy without Ursula that he's going to try and win her back. That's when he learns about the eviction of the jungle animals, and our hero has only 2 days to sort this out. He's going to need Abe's help, but...
These aren't nice people.
George won't go without Brother Abe.
All right, George.
First, they have to get Ursula and Junior back, and they are taking Rocky with them because he just happened to be here. But they have to get past Lyle's henchwomen.
Going somewhere?
Who are you, Xena, Princess of Vegas?
If either of them were played by Xena's actress, that would have been kind of funny. But that isn't the case, so it's a poor reference. This leads to a chase sequence through the casino. This is probably the only sequence in the movie that is kind of entertaining. It leads to a standoff on the roof where George and Abe escape by helicopter.
Not possible for George to hit!
Yes, fans, we've also included the Empire State Building. At least the Las Vegas version.
You didn't think we were going to pass up this parody?
That was a parody? Back with Ursula, she goes on about her dream scene with the love of her life, which includes ringing church bells and fireworks. That is for later, but for now, George finds Ursula, but she doesn't recognize him. She at least admits to finding him hot, but there's no time. George just KOs her to take her home. At least Junior is easier to convince.
Junior want to surf and not swing? It's okay with George.
Aww. Anyway, after getting a tip from Brendan Fraser, who they couldn't bother to get a cameo from, our heroes hide in a large crate that's shipped to Africa. That's when they start thinking about Ursula being under hypnosis, but no time to deal with that. Let's take a ride on Shep back to the jungle.
See if you can spot our discreet product placement.
Get it? Because George wore shoes last time, but now Shep is wearing them. When is this movie going to end? Here's one kind of funny bit, though.
Maybe Tukey wrong, and Mean Lion not king. Jungle not look different.
Not different? Look at the signs, George, the signs!
Speaking of Mean Lion, though, as they try rallying the animals to fight against the oncoming bulldozers...
Get down here! You know you're not the king. You've had a narcissistic personality disorder since you were a cub, and there's no reason that the rest of us should have to suffer for it.
What? Anyway, being king of the jungle is a big deal, even if said jungle might not even exist after today. Mean Lion fights George in an epic battle. But George easily wins because of this trick he learned from Abe.
Whoa, cool!
There, see?
So George gives a speech about how they should work together, and that he doesn't see the animals as subjects, but as brothers and sisters. Good enough, but Abe kind of ruins the moment by suggesting he say this instead.
We few. We happy few. We band of brothers.
For he today that sheds his fur with George shall be George's brother.
I don't get it. It didn't work anyway, so it's just George, Ape, Shep, and Rocky? How'd you get here? Of course, the other animals decide to help anyway, even if the second speech was pretty bad. But how will they stop an army of bulldozers? Coconuts.
Not elephant Zogzag.
You know, this scene would have been perfect if it weren't for the juvenile humor on display. Unfortunately, one of the bulldozers is heading for the treehouse that Ursula is in, so George has to stop it. And what do you know? That dozer is driven by the two henchwomen from earlier. Just roll with it. George doesn't want to beat up women, a la Sanji from One Piece, but Rocky doesn't feel the same way. Through frantically pressing buttons and stuff, George tries to turn off the bulldozer. So Junior swings in to help.
George's son swung!
We did it, Dad! We saved the jungle!
All that's left to deal with are Beatrice and Lyle. Ursula decides to go with Lyle, because hypnosis, and Beatrice offers George the deed to Ape Mountain so long as she gets to keep her daughter. Since George doesn't want his friends getting hurt, he allows Ursula to go as long as he gets the deed in exchange. What makes the choice harder is her giving him back the toothed necklace. So what does he do?
Get after them! Go on!
Hey. Classic moment of Western movie, where hero holds bad guy up in air, then humiliates with tree wedgie.
What? George!
Still not funny. He then kisses Ursula, and because this moment resembles what she wanted all along, fireworks and all that, she breaks out of her hypnosis. Beatrice gets ape-handled, and that's all she wrote. As for Lyle, he gets the one funny moment I like, where he insults the narrator when the narrator offers to explain everything.
Anyone else have any critiques or comments? Good.
It's the little things I like. And so, the movie begins to wind down, and George unhypnotizes Ursula's friends.
You're a big hairy ape.
Oh, yes.
George and Ursula also renew their vows, and he promises to strike a balance between his job and his family. Oh, and I guess Beatrice was allowed to stay for it.
But at all times, George belonged to Ursula, and Ursula will wear neck crown. Because without his queen, George could not be king.
A fine moment. Too bad it took the entire movie to get to this conclusion. Oh, but we can't end the movie without a reference to Disney's Tarzan. We have George tree surfing, not vine surfing, while Junior swings ahead with bad special effects.
Jungle surfing not so hard!
George, watch out for that!
I don't know about the rest of you, but this movie was bad. Really bad. It wasn't without some funny parts, but its humor was inferior to the first movie. Few of the jokes felt natural, and there aren't enough quiet moments to let the story develop. Remember, the first movie had to juggle the romance between a jungle king and a city woman, so it spaced its jokes out a little better to give a little room for relationship building. What we got here is a very disappointing movie sequel. Not the worst thing I've seen, given crap like Space Chimps 2, but it deserved better. Nothing could really save the movie. It was doomed the moment the Like Mike writer came on. It's like he and Grossman had no idea why the first George of the Jungle movie worked. And it shows. I'm the Media Hunter. Media's my prey, and reviewing them my way.
Hey, I'm the monkey! People say I'm monkey around. 1, 2,
Oh dear. Sorry.